Hey, John here. I've been asked to make a pallet bed for a teenage girl. Now my first thought is, that sounds easy. You grab a few pallets and you stack them together, and then you build a makeshift headboard. But when shown a picture of what she wanted, I knew that this was anything but pallets. And these beds run upward $1,000 to purchase on the internet. So I am going to show you how you can create a showroom floor pallet bed like you see on the internet, right around $300. So let's get cutting.
The beds you see on the internet are mostly made from red cedar, but I am going to use easy to get standard whiteboard that can be bought at Home Depot or Lowe's. I got 33 pieces of 8-foot long 1x6. I also purchased 5 pieces of 8-foot long 1x8. Okay, this is what I know. The mattress that will go on this is 60 inches by 80 inches. So to make sure I have a little wiggle room on each side, I will make the base 80 inches by 88 inches. This will give me an extra 4 inches at the head and foot of the mattress. The extra 20 inches on the side will give me enough to place the nightstand that she has requested. It all fits in our 8-foot boards. So let's get cutting. So to make this easy to take apart and be able to reassemble, I decided to make this one big picture frame. So laying the frame out on the floor, I am going to cut my 45-degree angles like a picture frame. So I don't screw this up while transporting them to the saw. I make simple lines that represent the direction of each angle. Believe me when I say that I can find a way to screw up even these simple cuts. After setting my miter saw to 45 degrees, I quickly look for my lines and make my cuts based on the very corner end of the board. If all your cuts were at a perfect 45 degrees, your frame should be a perfect square. Now I did a little overkill here because I got a deal on some large pieces of cedar, but I recommend you use standard cheap fence posts. I had to take a few extra steps to get these pieces ready for inclusion in the project. You will be cutting your fence posts at 8 inches. If you want to keep everything in whiteboard, you will need to add 2 more 1x6 pieces of whiteboard that we can cut to 8 inches, glue, and stack together. Had I not found the larger cedar pieces, this is actually what I was going to do. Not sure which one would have actually taken longer, but I bet the fence posts would have been the quickest route. You're going to repeat this step until you have 21 blocks. My blocks were already 6 inches wide, so I cut each 8 inches long. This will allow them to fit on the 1x6 as well as the 1x8s. To allow my cross pieces to share some of the same block, I will cut away a portion of the outer board where the block will sit. Find the center of your board and then use the block as a guide. Draw lines on your board to ensure you stay centered. Make your notch 6 inches wide. Your block should be 8 inches, so you still have support for a portion of the cut edges. This will be my jigsaw puzzle piece and will help me put it together after transport. It will also make the base a lot stronger. Instead of boring straight cuts, this made making the bed a little more fun. Too bad no one will see my creativity. Once your knot is cut, take some wood glue and glue your block into place. Flip it on its side to make sure it is flush, and you can simply nail these together or cheat like me and just put some staples in it until the glue dries. While you're at it, you can add the end pieces. Take your block to the very end and align with the edge of the board. Then repeat applying the glue and nailing it down. Do this to both ends. Remember, the pointy end of the board is the outside, so take a quick glance at the face of the block and find out which one is the prettiest and make it face outward. Don't put end blocks on all your boards, just the head and the footboards. Remember, they share ends with the sides, so make sure if you're using them to get the distance to the next block that you have it in the correct orientation. Now, with all your blocks on your base frame, you can cut your center and cross boards. Take your measurement for your center board from notch to notch and cut. Your center board will also need its own notches on both sides, but the process is the same as before. After notching, you can attach your center block. Remember, you are looking at this from the bottom of the frame. It's still upside down. Okay, here's how I cheat. Take a board and lay it across from side notch to side notch. Then draw lines across the center board. These will be your cut lines. This will make sure everything aligns once you put them in place. Repeat the same process of notching the board, but this time on both sides of the board. Stay in your guidelines that you just traced out. Once your center board is notched out, you can get the distance for your cross pieces. Take the measurements individually, but hopefully they should be the exact same size. Make those cuts and then place your remaining blocks in the center of each cross board. Glue and nail them down. Go back and add screws into all the corners of your base frame, circling the screws that do not have boards glued down below them. Now have somebody help you and flip your base over. It should look like this. The very first boards will be the 1x8s. You need to find them all and lay them out and then cut them to size. If you recall, this measurement should be 88 inches. Before you start cutting, take a square to each corner and double check that your base is lying square. If not, move it a bit. It should still have a little play. Now that those are cut, you can start mass producing the crossboards. If you recall, that measurement was supposed to be 80 inches. Start by cutting 10 pieces to see where that puts you. The gaps you intend to leave might differ from my taste, but my gaps will be the same width as the side of these boards. In other words, if you put a board on its side, it will fit in the gaps I intend to make. I set my cheater stops on my miter saw stand and rapidly produce 80-inch cut boards. If you would like to see a review of this stand, make sure you check out the link at the end of this video to see all the capabilities of this stand. When you reach your last board, you can grab your last piece of 1x8 if needed, or if a 1x6 works, use it. I got this extra 1x8 because my measurements actually said I would be 1 inch short, so this piece could be trimmed down to cover both. Don't throw away that extra inch piece because it will actually come in handy, as I discovered this later. As you see here, the last board at the head of the bed is slightly larger but not really noticeable. Now, with all your cut ends, you can put together a quick nightstand. So with 20 inches to work in, I decided to make the nightstand around 17 inches. So start by cutting 4 identical 16-inch pieces. I first cut a pair of leftover 1x6 scraps, and then I cut my 4-foot 1x12 in half. Now take one of each and join them together. What I mean is that you will join a 1x6 piece to a 1x12 piece. This will give you 2 sides of the nightstand. You will do this twice and then add a little wood glue and screw them together. Measure down 2.5 inches from the edge and 8 inches across and make a mark. This should be the center if your cuts were 16 inches. Now measure out 2 inches from that center in each direction to give you a total of 4 inches. I'm going to give my handles about 1 inch in width, so I will place little guide marks before I round the ends. With a quarter or a washer, trace out the edges. Then join your lines. You will do this twice for each side of the nightstand. Now you can use a spade bit or a hole saw to cut out your round edge. I will show you both here, but there is really no difference in the end product. Then simply take a jigsaw and connect your holes. Then sand the handle and the face of the boards in the standard 3-step process. For the next step, I think smaller is cuter, so I am going to take each scrap piece and cut it in half long ways. So each 6-inch wide board will now be 3 inches. So after cutting 9 pieces, I will have 18 pieces for the sides. Start in the center on the top and then add 1 to each side for stability for when you add the others. I am using 18 gauge 2-inch brads and of course wood glue. Once your center top and the side supports are on, start filling in the sides top down. So your odd piece out is on the bottom of the box. For the spacing, I simply use one of the scrap pieces on its side. You will continue this until both sides are filled out. The bottom or last piece of each side will need to be trimmed to fit flush with the edge. Then we can move back to the top. For the top, I realize that items will be frequently placed on it, so I want to close the gap on them a bit. So for this, I grabbed a scrap piece unrelated to this project, and I used that as a spacer. It was right around 1/4 inch. Then I simply repeated the previous steps to complete the box. Give the box a final sanding, and we can now move on to the headboard. Earlier, I told you to keep the strip from the 1x8 because it will come in handy. Well, grab that now and cut around 4-inch pieces. No measuring here, these are all just spacers to help align the base pieces. Cut your strip until you have a stack of pieces. Take those pieces and place them between your slats. This will ensure all your boards are evenly spaced. I was using the cut off ends placed on their sides earlier, and now those boards are part of the nightstand, so that's why I cut up this strip. I don't know if I have used my catchphrase yet in this video, but here you can see me making it up as I go along. The block represents the height of the mattress, 10 inches, so I am just trying to get a feel for how high the headboard should be, and I have decided to go with 42 inches based on the height of the mattress. Yes, I truly make this up as I go along. Okay, let me take you into the mind of John and tell you what I'm thinking here. I see the first piece going all the way across. I'm picturing this from a side view. And I will have boards going across and spaced the same distance as the base. So I will need to know what this distance is between those inside cross pieces so I can fill them with support blocks in the center and both top and bottom. I take that measurement and I cut the blocks. I will need a total of 6, 3 for each side. Going back to your stack of boards, you will need to cut at least 6 pieces to start. These need to be the same width as the base, which is 80 inches. Now attach your blocks to the ends of one of the pieces you just cut, and then flip it over and attach to the other side. Before stapling these down, or nailing them down, apply your wood glue for that extra bond. Earlier, we said that we wanted the headboard to be 42 inches, so now cut 4 legs to the headboard at 42 inches, or whatever height you decided on. Grab a square and a few clamps. Apply your wood glue and place your legs into position. Then clamp down and ensure the leg is square and flush with the bottom, and then nail into position. Flip it over and then add your top piece. Again, all these should be the same 80 inches. With the top complete, you can flip it back over and start building your second cross section. The same as before, glue and nail your blocks to one side and then place the second side on. I'm not doing this on the ground because I'm just sick of bending over. Then set it out of the way until we need it. Grab a handful of spacers and start adding the cross pieces. Again, 80 inches across. Place spacers in between the boards, clamp into position, and glue and nail in place. Repeat this on the front side only until you get to the center of the headboard. Once you're at your center, add your cross section. This should have both front and back support as well as the support block in it. It will be the same space as the others, so don't forget your spacers. Add 2 more cross pieces and then place the bottom on the headboard, leaving a gap. I will use the gap to tie into the base of the bed. This will give it support if it's not placed up flush against a wall. This is just in case. Place one board on the back side opposite of your gap. Remember, you're looking at the bottom of the headboard right now, so think upside down. I will once again use blocks since I seem to have an abundance of them. If you're using fence posts, this will work perfectly as well. To give you a visual, okay, it was really for me to figure this out. I flipped the headboard upright and moved it closer to being in position. There I could mark where the blocks would be without running into the blocks on the base of the bed. While I was at it, I measured the gap at the base to figure out how high my blocks needed to be. I cut 4 blocks to that size and I flipped my headboard back over. Staying in the marks I made, I attached the blocks to the headboard, leaving half of the block protruding. Check out this knucklehead move. Only half the block needs glue, and yet I glue the whole thing. Maybe I'm just trying to catch flies. Once I have them, I clamp them into position, and then while the glue is setting, I take wood screws and screw them in for extra support. The very last step is for looks only. Attach a small piece on the side with the gap behind the leg, and then insert your block and nail it into place. Since the side of the headboard can be seen, you need it to look symmetrical and look like a pallet. All the pieces were transported via truck to the room in which they will be assembled. Since this is my jigsaw puzzle, I offered to put it together, knowing I could do it quick because the instructions were in my head. So for your entertainment and in fast motion, I assembled the bed in the room. This always makes me chuckle because I hear the Benny Hill theme in my head while I'm going this fast. As always, thanks for watching, hit that thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe.